It's time to do what we always do on this podcast, and that's get really spooky.
Oh my god.
And by that I mean we're going to get kind of, like, maybe a little bit spooky, but we're going to be very action-oriented.
Which is like the opposite of either of us. Neither of us is very action-oriented.
I mean, I could see. I've been action-oriented at times.
I mean, do you actively do action moves or anything? Like,
I mean, not currently, but there was probably a time where I did.
All right, Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Did you call him Doy?
No, I called him Dwayne.
It sounded like you said Doy The Rock Johnson.
That's a better name. We should just call him that from now on. But no, I did actually call him his name.
I'm going to blame that on Skype. Do you smell what Doy is cooking? Hello, welcome to this week's fantastic episode of the Season Checkup OVA. It is episode number 86. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello, I'm Jared, joined as always by the the representative of Doy The Rock Johnson, Doc Al herself, and Ladium.
Hello. I want to be the new manager for Doy The Rock Johnson.
Oh, man.
I'm sure I can market him quite well.
Pretty sure. We are here to talk to you today about a controversial game.
Yes.
A very
Like
divisive game.
On this podcast, we talk about controversy a lot.
That's right, because that's what they call us, the paragons of controversy.
Controversy Squad, go.
Yay.
Yay.
We're going to talk about a game. Sorry, go ahead.
It is divisive, though.
It is divisive. We're going to talk about a game that came out 2012, so that was like 6 years ago, according to Time, whoever that is.
Time is a construct.
Time is a magazine.
Time is also a magazine.
We are going to talk to you about a game a game from a series that I technically don't have a lot of experience with, but you do.
I have a lot of experience
with
it.
We are here to talk to you about Resident Evil 6. AKA Giraffe Getting.
Oh my god, I didn't realize that was a thing until you said it, and now I can't unsee it. I'm so mad
I don't
at
know
you.
how you missed that. Like, when they first unveiled that logo, that was the discourse about that number 6. The way they designed it was like, oh, it looks like a giraffe getting.
Who thinks that?
The internet.
Okay, fair. But that was not where my brain went. I didn't see it and think like, that's a giraffe getting full on. But like, no, that's not where my brain went. But now that's where my brain goes every time I see it. Now you've ruined me.
That's what I'm here for.
Thanks, buddy.
So yeah, this is a video game where they don't do the fantastic Resident Evil when you upload or when you boot up the game every time, and it's incredibly disappointing. So automatically, it's like a 0 out of 10.
It will be missed greatly.
It's truly missed. We were looking for games to play, cooperative games.
Mm-hmm. There was a sale. Like 4, 5, and 6 are on sale, and some other games that are on PS4. And you mentioned that you hadn't played 6. I have played 6. I got finished 6.
Yeah. You hadn't played through all the way. You barely played 6, basically.
I barely got through it because I tried to play with somebody and they were terrible.
It was me.
It was not you. You actually were really, really good at this game.
That's me. I'm a professional Resident Evil 6 player. Catch me on the esports scene. Playing Resident Evil.
Under the name Doy The Rock Johnson.
Catch me by my screen name Doy The Rock Johnson. So yeah, you mentioned that you hadn't played through this, and the only thing that I really knew about this game is that like people did not like this game.
Yeah.
Like coming off of 4 and 5, this game pretty much went very much action focused and diverted itself away from the survival horror roots of the series.
Which the series has been doing since 4. Like 4,
Yeah,
5, and 6 are very action oriented. People just are not paying attention.
5, and I think 5 particularly is where like
That's the mega shift.
you see it more leaning towards the action side, but there still was like elements of survival horror I think in that game. But this is like they just like ramp that action meter all the way up.
This one goes to 11.
This one goes to 11, and then like it still has like zombies and some weird creepy monster designs and all that stuff, but like you don't have to like be fearful going around a corner that you're gonna get spooked.
I mean, you don't maybe.
Like for the most part, like that's not gonna happen. Like there's not like a bunch of like jump scares in this game,
Yeah.
unlike previous iterations of the series. So yeah, it's basically a big old action game essentially, but like a very big budget action game in a strange way, like in a way that like, you don't expect from Capcom.
It's basically like a summer popcorn movie.
Yeah,
into
yeah,
a video game.
yeah. It truly is, and especially with the way the game like kind of splits its campaign into 4 separate categories that all intertwine in different ways. It is very ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they necessarily hit their marks every single time, but it's definitely ambitious.
And I can appreciate them like putting in the effort to do something like this. Like it didn't, like you said, it didn't hit every single time, but when it hit, it was like, oh, that's awesome. Good job.
I guess also like it is interesting to note that, while this is a very controversial and divisive game, when it came out on the PS3 and 360, it is currently the 3rd highest selling Capcom game ever released.
Yeah.
Only behind Monster Hunter World, which just came out this year, and Resident Evil 5. So this is a better, and it is above the other 2 games in the top 5. Street Fighter 2, it's a game you might have heard of, and
Maybe.
Resident Evil 7 Biohazard.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, 6 sold a lot, and I mean, good for that. I'm just sad that we'll never get another one like this.
It's strange that, you mentioned that, and obviously if you've paid attention, like 7 completely goes in a humongous different direction.
Correct.
Where it's, first person, it has the VR element, and it is purely horror.
Yep.
And if you look at this from like just financials, it would seem baffling that they would go in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it worked because it's their 5th best-selling game of all time, but
But this is their 3rd.
Exactly, and like if you look at the initial releases of 5 and 6, that's a combined 14 million units sold.
Yeah.
And to like just completely diverge from the mechanics, the system, the style that you have kind of like rooted in with those
And
2 games and the characters, to completely go in a separate direction is insane. But interestingly, they pulled it off. But it seems like, despite the high sales and everything, like that was purely a move due to the very divisive and controversial nature of this game.
And if the series continues like it did in 7, I will not play another Resident Evil game, like mainline, period.
Except the 2 remake.
Well, that's not a mainline like
Yeah, true,
that.
true.
It's like the 1 through 6 at this point. Like
The
those are
numbered
the
series.
style that I like.
Yeah.
And then like once you get to 7 and go to that style, I'm just like, no. I tried to play a little bit of it, and I told my brother at one point, like, no, we don't need this wife. We can go online date. We don't need this wife. Let's leave. I don't like it. And like I played maybe an hour and a half, and I just could not handle it.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. Like that's a game I would not play.
Which, I mean, to be fair, I also just don't do well with first person games.
True.
Period. I just don't do very well with them. So, putting me in first person and also trying to scare the crap out of me, just, no thanks, pass.
Mm-hmm.
So, playing this one was quite a joy for me.
Yeah, I just wonder if like what they would do with 8. Like, would they just continue with what they did, the formula they made with 7? Do they go back to these characters? do they just do something else completely different or
Like,
what?
could they split the series somehow?
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's an interesting conundrum, but
And it's also tough because it's Capcom, so
yeah,
you got to figure out like what the heck Capcom's actually doing.
that's completely true. I mean, if you look at like the last few years, Capcom hasn't technically been doing great. I mean, they've kind of bounced back with like Monster Hunter World doing gangbusters in terms of sales
Right.
for them, but I mean, before that, it was like, they really weren't that hot anymore.
Capcom was in a giant slump.
Yeah, but yeah, this is Resident Evil 6 we're gonna be talking about.
hmm
Like I said, a game released in 2012, October 2nd, 2012 to be exact. Initially for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360.
hmm
It came to PC a few months later on March 22nd, 2013, and then re-released on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on March 29th, 2016.
And that's the version we played.
That is the version we played, which is basically the whatever you want to call a complete edition or whatever. If there was like DLC for this game,
I'd consider it like the old like Game of the Year edition type scenarios that they
right,
used to do,
right.
even though this wasn't a Game of the Year, but still that's what the editions were always called.
So yeah, it has like all the difficulties, the DLCs, and you don't have to like play through all the campaigns to unlock like Ada's campaign. Like I guess it was initially was the case when the game first launched. But yeah,
Which I mean, probably should have stuck with that because Ada's would make zero sense without any of the other
yeah,
ones.
that's 100% true. And I guess eventually they also had to add in a co-op for that campaign as well
Agent.
with the best character agent, who we'll get to later on.
Yes, I'm excited to talk about Agent.
So we went and played through the entire game.
We did.
There were times where this story was just nonsensical. And I feel like that's an understatement. Like, man, like, if you like had put me like just sat me down and told me like this was a Hideo Kojima production, I probably would have believed you. It's that weird and kind of like just the story is just off the rails at points. Because I mean, it has that kind of like nature to it, which is like the ways it tries to interweave all the characters together, and has you just replay like cutscenes when you're doing different campaigns. So like you're just seeing like the same fights, the same just cutscenes you've already seen before. It's just so strange, and just the story in general is just weird. Just completely weird. Oh man.
And I guess like, that's one thing that I mentioned to you several times while we were playing it. And I've mentioned it, I guess, on this podcast briefly, and that like people complain about this game because they're like, oh, it's completely different than like what all the Resident Evil games have been before. Resident Evil has been like this for a long time. Resident Evil is a ridiculous series. And like one of the most famous moments from 5 is when Chris Redfield frickin' punches a boulder. Like, your final boss is essentially a boulder in 5. But it's always just been like these weird shenanigans and stories and like goofy things that are happening that you're like, oh, okay, wow. And it's been campy for a long time. It really has. And so like when I hear complaints like this, I'm like, did people actually ever play Resident Evil games? Or is it just like they played them a long time ago and haven't gone back to play them again? Like, we were talking about how ridiculous 6 is at moments, and then I sent you a video of like one of the bosses from 4, and it was like, it's always been like this. Look at this. And because there was like a weird like Napoleon-looking tiny man that you had to fight, who also had like a giant robotic version of himself.
Right.
And like Leon threw a knife in his hand, and you start screeching. Like that's part of a fight. It's always been like this, guys. You just don't remember Resident Evil being like this because I don't know, like you haven't played it in 20 years.
But I think like as well, like some of the gameplay is not good. I think that.
I agree with you.
If there is a major complaint in this game, even though like I think the story can be completely dumb at times, even though like we had a great time playing it, the gameplay at times was just borderline bad.
I think the worst of that was like when you had to run at certain points and the camera angles were just atrociously bad. That is the worst offender of this entire game. It's just like scenarios where you have to run and it's really, really quick and you have like zero time for error. And it's like, hey, what if we just like change the camera angle so nothing makes sense? That'd be cool, right?
Which is the game kind of has a problem with that in general in terms of gameplay, where it's like it does a bad job of telling you what to do at times, or even like explaining mechanics. Like the idea of being able to like dodge roll out of the way or flip around or dodge under stuff, like that is never explained.
No, we figured it out mainly by trying to make our characters dance.
Exactly. And like there are like loading screen tool tips,
but they're so fast
but they're so fast, and like we just kind of thought like, oh well, maybe it's just because we're playing like a re-release on better hardware. But apparently that was the case on like the original versions of the game too, where like they would just fly by those loading screens. So like it'll pop up something to tell you, but like you never get a chance to read it.
Mm-mm.
And that's just bad.
I mean, but for the most part, it plays like a 4 or 5 Resident Evil. Like the gameplay for the most part is the same. It just has like some really bad moments. So you're like, wow, I can't believe this got past anybody. Really, like some poor user tester should have been like, hey, maybe don't do this.
Also, like their weird cover system is bad too.
Agreed. The cover system is terrible.
That's something that you just never should have implemented. Because like, when did we ever use cover in that game?
Well, the thing is that the few times we ever tried to use cover, we would actually just end up vaulting over the table.
That's true. Or we'd just be like, how do I shoot?
Yeah, there were a few times that I'm like, all right, I'm behind this cover, but like I can't actually take my gun out and shoot the person that I'm trying to shoot. Okay, and so like my character's just behind the wall, like popping in and out, trying really hard to shoot things, but failing miserably. But yeah, I thought it was really funny the few times that we tried to use cover. We just like vaulted over the cover, and then we're like, well, we're in the open. Let's do this.
Yeah, it's just...
So yeah, there are a lot of things that didn't work in it, but there are a lot of things that did work.
Like butts.
Oh my God, there are so many good butts in this game. Holy crap, I was so impressed by the butts. There were also bad butts. Like the Chris route is just really disappointing for butts. I'll be real with you. The entirety of the Chris route is like, God, I miss the butts. Like we went from the Leon and Helena route, which had fantastic butts, to the Chris and Piers route, which had no fantastic butts. And then we got to go to Sherry and Jake, and I was like, yes, the butts have returned. So, and then Ada. But, you know, our butt downside here was Chris and Piers. It was really disappointing when we had to like get butt shots of them, and it's just like their crappy army pants.
Obviously we've
hot
been
butt takes.
Sorry.
Hot butt takes.
The hottest of butt takes. Obviously we've mentioned this game is like divisive and controversial.
Yep.
The review scores are completely all over the place. At launch, the Metacritic scores were a 74 on PS3, a 69 on PC, nice, and a 67 on Xbox 360. Apparently, the Xbox One and PS4 versions are even lower, where the PS4 had a 60% and the Xbox One had a 63%. I'm going to run down the review scores that Wikipedia has listed, which I believe are just for the
original release.
Yeah, the original release. I'm just going to look through these real quick just to double check, but I believe that is the case. Because these all say 2012, 2012, 2012. 2012. Yeah, so like Destructoid gave it a 3 out of 10.
Yeah, but that was Jim Sterling, so you can't count it.
Edge gave it a 6 out of 10. Eurogamer a 6 out of 10. Famitsu a 39 out of 40.
Yeah, Famitsu.
G4 gave it a 2.5 out of 5. Game Informer gave it an 8.75 out of 10. GameSpot gave it a 4.5 out of 10. Games Radar gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Game Trailers gave it an 8.8 out of 10. Giant Bomb gave it a 2 out of 5. IGN gave it a 7.9 out of 10. OXM UK gave it an 8 out of 10. And The Escapist gave it a 3 out of 5. So those are like wide, vast, just differences in scores all over the place.
Right.
And yeah, like just people all across the board had a variety of things to say about this game. But clearly the only ones that matter are our voices.
Us. We're the ones who matter.
So let's talk about Resident Evil 6. Draft getting.
Oh my god!
So we started off the game by just going through the campaigns in the order that they gave it to us. Which, of course, means we start off with Rookie Cop Leon S. Kennedy.
Who is no longer a rookie cop.
He's always a rookie cop in my heart.
I did the math, and just for everybody's purposes here, Leon in this game is 36.
He is a very old rookie.
He's not very old, but...
As a rookie, that'd be very old.
Okay. But just keep in mind, when we're going through all the shenanigans that Leon goes through, he is 36 at this point. Worth mentioning.
Clearly a good thing to mention.
Yes, it will become necessary later.
Oh, man. So we started this game off like what in a university, and
it's like an Ivy League university that's basically called like Ivy University.
Literally is just called that. And rookie cop Leon S. Kennedy shoots the president.
Okay, you're not wrong, but he's like I think it's DOS is the group that he works for. It's like a defense or Department of Security or something. I don't remember what
Division
it is. Anyway,
of Security Operations.
There you go.
Very specific.
Very specific. So Leon has been tasked with I think Leon has been working with them since 4, if I remember correctly. Basically, he's like U.S. Defense Squad and works closely with the president. And Leon's like, hey, I'm at this Ivy University. Things are totally going to be fine because I'm Leon S. Kennedy and I'm here and nothing could ever go wrong, right?
Right.
And then we get Arrested Development narrator. He's like, he was wrong. Because everything goes wrong very quickly. And as you said, he ends up shooting the president, who is now Adam Bedford, who is not Graham, because that was Ashley's dad. And apparently they've been bros, like him and Leon, which I was not aware of, and we don't really get a lot of backstory on. They were just led to believe that they were bros for a while.
It's true.
Which I guess if you're like his head of security or whatever, you get quite close. But we also get the introduction to Helena.
Yes.
Who's a lady who tells us nothing.
And she's like a Secret Service person.
Yeah, Secret Service, and Hunnigan's basically like, you can trust her.
Except she never tells you anything.
She never tells you anything. Like, at a certain point in the game, Jared and I were just yelling, like, please just tell us something. Please.
Because, like, you first meet her, and she's like, oh, we go to this church, I'll tell you things there. And then you get to church, she's like, oh, we gotta go this place, I'll tell you things there. And then you get to that place, oh, you do this, I'll tell you this.
It's like a continuous, like, we just gotta keep going, and I'll tell you everything. And at one point, like, Leon finally gets to his, like, you gotta tell me something. But I think it was, like, the second time that she did it, Jared and I were both like, no, you need to tell us what's happening.
We were done.
Tell us what's going on. And it's a whole lot of, like, dumb Resident Evil tropes of, like, hey, there's this person and we gotta save them. Oh no, they're a zombie. What are we gonna do? We're gonna shoot them because that's what we're supposed to do. And that happens a few times in the university, and then we escape. Which I guess it should be mentioned that, like, we had a weird prologue scene before all this.
Yeah.
Of, like, Leon helping Helena and, like, giving her medicine. There's, like, a jet into a building, and zombies everywhere. That's your introduction. There's a helicopter.
But definitely is not during that university scene.
No, no, no. And so, like, I was a little confused because we started with that prologue, and then, like, we got to the university. I'm like, are these the same place? But they're not.
Like, what is going on here?
So it's a whole lot of, like, let's get out of the university and get to that church.
Yeah.
And even then, like, we finally get to the church, and it's a whole lot of, like, survivors in there saying, like, no, you can't come in. You can't do it.
Which, I mean, granted,
And
what we learned about Leon S.
smart.
Kennedy throughout this entire campaign is that if you ever meet him out in the wild and there is a outbreak happening, run in the complete opposite direction. Because if you interact with him, you are going to die.
Unless you're Helena.
Unless you're
Or Hunnigan.
Unless you are a co-op partner.
Or Hunnigan, because she's survived every Resident Evil she contacts him in.
Well, she's in a completely different like place, so she's fine.
Yeah.
She is not in the vicinity.
If you see him, run.
Exactly.
I understand that he's a good-looking guy, and he has a fantastic butt, and he's also voiced by Matt Mercer. So, like, A+ is all the way across the board here.
But you will die. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Die. Please run. Well, there are buts, but with 2 T's.
God.
There's a lot of scenarios where we were in like the cemetery trying to get to the chapel, and like we both kept falling into random holes.
That's what happens when you're in a cemetery. You might just stumble into a grave.
It was weird. I was like, "Oh God, you disappeared!" And you're just like in a water hole.
Like, help! I've been buried alive.
I remember that we got to that chapel, and I was terrified because we had that like gassy guy coming at us.
The gassy guy.
He was a gassy man.
He was. It's like the name of the gassy guy.
He's just farting his zombie juice all over you.
Which is always weird because
I think I've ever said.
It's true. It's always weird when like they give you like those like kind of specialty zombies and like it's this huge fight the first time and then like afterwards like, oh, you just run into them in the wild and they just fall over pretty easily.
Yeah. Yeah, the same thing happened when we were trying to escape the city, and like we ran into the big boys.
Big boy.
There was like these really big fat zombie guys, and there's one that was like essentially like a boss fight when we were trying to save like an old man who was dumb as crap because he's like, hey, you need to get rid of all those zombies down there. Just go shoot it up through the windows. Oh, by the way, I have like security windows down there that I could have shut the whole time.
That's fine though. You can shoot all these zombies. Get all these people killed.
By the time that he died, I was like, you deserve that for being a butt. Although he didn't die in a very pleasant way, so
nobody dies in a pleasant way here.
I mean, fair. A lot of people died because of the zombie farts, because it's like a very small chapel area, and like me as Helena and you as Leon, we're like running around trying to get it.
And then all those people in that chapel died.
Not all of them, but a lot of them died. And then we like went under, well, there was some like weird puzzly stuff to do, and then we went under the chapel into like the catacombs.
Where we found some like, labs and shit.
That's where stuff started going real crazy.
When it gets off the rails.
Yeah, it started getting really, really off the rails at this point. Because that's when we found like the Ada tape, the Happy Birthday Ada.
Which was clearly meant for us.
Oh, totally. I mean, like Leon's like, Happy Birthday Ada. This should be a good video to watch because I love Ada Wong.
And then
Which, I mean, like, it probably was a good one for him because she was naked.
I mean, well, I don't know. It'd be like, I like this, but I'm very confused.
Right. It would be a confusion boner. Let's be real.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, he would straight up have confusion boner because he's like, she's naked and I love this, but also like...
She just came out of like a cocoon.
Right. She was hatched and also she's covered in goo.
This is real weird.
Yeah, I kind of dig this. I should probably get out of this room before things go crazy, and then him.
Let me make a copy of this tape real quick.
Yep. Which, by the way, the fact that it's a VHS tape is hilarious.
Perfect.
I was like, oh my god, there's a VHS.
It's amazing.
Oh man, the kiddos would not understand. It's like, what is he playing that on, man? What is that?
This is also like the time we learned that like the head of the NSA is apparently behind all of this.
The head of the NSA is a villain. Wow.
Who could have thunk it?
Wow. Yeah, he's basically constructed this entire like bio event.
Bio event.
Well, what else would you call it?
I mean, you're right. It's just a funky word to say.
Bioterrorism. I could say that, but bio event works.
It just reminds me of like when you hear like nerdy people be like, "Oh yes, if you would like to go take a bio break right now." I hate that phrase.
I never even heard that phrase. Does that mean you have to go pee?
It's literally, hey, I gotta go to the bathroom, but I need to go take a bio break.
Oh my god, just tell people you have to pee.
Yeah, it's like nobody's gonna be offended if like, hey, I need to go to the bathroom.
I mean, I tell you all the time we're playing games, like, Jared, I gotta go pee.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a bio event.
Oh my god, it's the bio event where everybody pees.
And I think here we also learn about like Helena's been involved in this, and her sister's involved, and there's cocoons everywhere, and it's real weird.
Yeah, so it's odd because like we're going through the chapel and we find this room with like 2 chairs, one of them's flipped over, and we're like, some kind of bad event happened here.
Yeah, it basically it's immediately like, oh, this is either a room where they were interrogating people or torturing people, or probably both.
Probably both.
Yeah. And
Helena's like, everybody was here. Everybody was just here. What's going on? And then you're like, okay, Helena knows what's going on, but she won't tell us. And it turns out that NSA director has been like experimenting on her sister Deborah.
Sure.
I think that was her name.
That sounds about right.
And we should know because I mean she yelled the name like 150 times.
True, she did.
And so this is part of the game where both of us were just like incoherently screaming at both Leon and Helena because they were both being excessively stupid.
Which they completely continue that throughout the rest of the game.
Oh yeah, they do.
And other characters.
I would say Helena gets a little bit better after this, but like during this entire scenario, I was like, Helena. Like there were a few times that she died in this, so I was like, you know what, that's fine. You probably deserve that. Which some of them involved us accidentally like spiking both of us to death.
It happens.
But Helena finds her sister Deborah, who is like cocooned, and also Ada shows up, and Leon's like, instant boner. I can't think about anything else now. So, we have to fight Deborah, and also like travel down the building.
Because you fight her like multiple stages. You do like a Donkey Kong Country 2 rail ride at one point, and she's on there, and you got to fight her there, and it's just a whole big ordeal.
Which, by the way, neither of us are good at timed button presses. Quick time events are not our forte. So there were so many times that like we're on the rail car and she's trying to fight it. It like blonked by the stuff that's coming through. We're like, oh, all right, well, I guess we're floored now. You were better at it than I was, but I don't think either of us were really good at it.
It's very rude.
It was insane.
But yeah, eventually you beat her, and then Helena just drops her off of a cliff or whatever.
Yeah, because there's so many times that Helena, like even that one part, Helena's like, I'm going to grab your arm and hold on to you. And I'm like, Helena, she's dead. She's like a zombie at this point. Please let her go. And she's like, no more tears. And I'm like, she's not crying. She's trying to eat your face.
Welcome to the continual aspect of Resident Evil characters not knowing how to kill people at the right opportune moment.
Yeah, like if somebody is, I don't care if like they're your most loved one in the entire universe. If they're trying to eat your face off,
It's
You
done.
are supposed, yeah, that's no longer your loved one. You need a new loved one. You can get a new one because they're trying to eat your face. Let them go.
You can hatch one from a cocoon if you want.
Apparently, I mean, that's how Leon's gonna get a new Ada, maybe. I don't know. I don't
Mail
know how
order
these things.
Ada.
Mail order Ada. Lord Leon S. Kennedy.
Rookie cop.
Um, which by the way, we also got a scene in this that wrecked me and was so unfair because nobody warned me there was a freaking zombie shark.
Oh, right.
And so like I think pretty much like that entire sequence was you having to deal with me just like screeching and hoping that I was pressing the right prompts because like I was not looking at the screen.
Well, like they drop you down to like water area, which automatically it's like, oh great, a water level. That's what everyone wants. And you see like
Swimming is
you see
good.
this big fish like going around. It's like, oh, there's just a big fish, and like no indication that was like actual like a shark or anything. I was like, oh, that's a
Yeah,
big
I
old
was thinking
fish.
more like in Resident Evil 4, how like it was more like a whale, like a mudfish type of thing.
Right.
But no, it's a shark.
Yeah.
Zombie shark. Which you say that it looks ridiculous.
It does. It looks super ridiculous.
I cannot confirm or deny because I couldn't look at it
That's
too
true.
much. But it got to the point where like there was one part where you were in the water and it was required me to like shoot it so you could get away, and I was just like, die.
So, but the best thing about that, so we got through all of that. We got me up on like the ledge and was like, okay, we're getting ready to proceed. My power goes out.
And the checkpoint was before the water part.
Mm-hmm. And it was like my screen just went black. I was like, oh, I guess we're getting a cutscene here. And then like my PS4 shuts down. Everything else around me shuts down. I was like, what the f-? I was like, oh, I super hope that like they checkpoint us after that. And it was like, nope, you gotta swim through all that and redo that entire fight. And I was like, oh my god, why? Poor
So then you
Al.
got to deal with me screeching twice.
I mean, you got through it.
I did. I got through it and I felt better because I shot the ever loving heck out
You
of it
did.
a lot. You like told me at one point, you're like, you were on that.
You legitimately were. Like you were just like, it would pop up. You're like, blah, and it pop up again. You're like, blah.
I didn't want it to show up anymore. I was like, please go away.
Which I mean, it was probably a good thing you were Helena there, so like you could have the cathartic effect of like just shooting the hell out of that shark,
But also not being in the water with it.
but also not being in the water with it with bad swimming controls.
Yeah, that would have been terrifying for me to just
Yeah.
be stuck in the water with it, knowing it's coming behind me. And then, like, even if you get caught, you get chomped, and that's scary.
Chomp.
I did not like that. I was like, no, not zombie sharks. Why?
But we got through it. It was we had to do it twice, but we got through it. And then I had to like, even though if I had to calm you down, coach you through it, we got through it. It was okay.
We got through it.
We got through it.
And then is this when we go to China? We get on an airplane?
I think something happens after we get out of that, but I don't remember. But yeah, we go to China next.
We've also learned in this game, do not let Leon fly.
God, no.
There-
He is a terrible pilot.
There are two things we've learned from this game. If you see Leon S. Kennedy and you are not his co-op partner, run the heck away. And if you see Leon and he's trying to pilot something, also run away.
If you're trapped with Leon
He's-
Kennedy on a plane, you're
Yeah, all those people are dead. Like mega dead. Because
mega
he is the worst flyer. And like when the entire sequence is like zombies on the plane and Leon having to
Just like
fly
that
the
movie.
plane. Yeah, exactly. When he crashes it, we were both like, well, that's like 3 blocks of China gone.
Mhm. And then no one like, mentions it afterwards. It's like, whatever.
No, nobody mentions that, but a few in a few of the routes are like, oh, there's an airplane. Interesting. We're like, oh,
Yep.
there goes Leon.
The best part about that was like, it makes you get into like the pilot seat to try and fly the plane to at least like land it somewhere. It's like, they're like, oh, you need to turn this lever over here. And it's like, I'm just like looking around waiting for a button prompt. It's like, I can't see any of this stuff. What do you want me to do? Which speaking of,
I'm
that
behind you like,
yeah,
zombies.
you're like trying to fight off zombies. That reminds me of a good point that this game strangely brings up, but like I feel like a lot of times we look at the generation jump from like 360 to the PS4 era as like not a big jump. Like the graphics got better, but like not really a lot else changed.
Mm-hmm.
You look at this game, you can definitely see the bumps in hardware where things are significantly better.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, there are parts of this that are pretty, and then there are parts of this that are like, wow, that is a poorly textured
yeah,
wall.
like a lot of the textures in this game look like trash.
Hot garbage.
And like you look at games now, it's like, you know, we actually have like good high res textures throughout like a lot of games, and you know, even during this era, like PC stuff was getting a lot of like good high res textures, but like, you know, the consoles were still lagging behind because that was still, you know, 2006 hardware. And
Right.
man, just looking at this game now and just like seeing all those like poorly rendered textures and just, oh boy, like yeah, that
Did you get poorly rendered textures in the cockpit?
probably. I think all those instruments were just kind of like there. But yeah, like
Good.
it's night and day how much of a difference that makes. Like nowadays compared to like, you know, just a few years ago. But yeah, it's a huge difference that I think a lot of people kind of don't necessarily notice or kind of like just kind of forget and like push to the side in terms of like, you know, significant upgrades from the previous generation to now.
Well, what we learned is past gen still had good butts, but also they could not do walls
It's true. But
or
now we
much
can do
of
butts
anything.
and walls.
Yay!
Yay. But yeah, Leon crashes a plane in China.
And then we run into Sherry and Jake
We do.
and fight a big claw man, which this part was hilarious because like you had a bus and the bus like the one thing that it didn't hit the enemy, it hit me.
Yeah, because there's a point where like you get split up from your partner, and like I had to fix a bus up, which apparently Leon just knows how to fix buses, and it's like, okay, well we're gonna drive this bus into the enemy, and it's like, okay, and then like it flew off, and then you were just like out there standing, it just ran you over.
I didn't die. It's just surprising because you die from like something looking at you wrong in this game, but but it didn't hit the enemy, it hit me.
It was really good.
But it still triggered like us to move on, so it's fine.
Yeah.
So that was our first like run in with Sherry and Jake in the Leon route, and
They tell us where to go find Simmons.
yeah. So then we're going to like the weird like research lab thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which there's one part where we run into Simmons and like Leon actually pulls out both of his guns, and you're
It's the
like,
only time.
what?
The only time he does that.
Yeah, that's one thing that irritated both of us is that like every time somebody had their gun out in the Leon and Helena route, like they just had their that was it. I was like, guys, you have better weapons.
Don't you just pull out your pistol
Hold
every
on.
time? You can pull out your shotgun, your machine gun, your sniper rifle, your knife.
Pull something out that's not the dang pistol. Come on. So yeah, we run into Simmons a few times, and at one point he gets infected. But also we're in the like weird research lab, and we run into the killer Roombas.
Oh, the killer Roombas. Super jerks.
Weird room. We were like, what do we do? We just kill these Roombas?
That's what we tried to do, and it technically worked, even though that's not what we were supposed to do.
Roombas were exploding everywhere. Which then leads to a showdown.
It does, because we
Roombas, right?
also have run into Ada here.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, oh, Leon's like, oh, I gotta go get her. Gotta go get her.
That's my
Gotta go
Ada.
say hi.
I gotta get her.
Like, hey, girl. Hey,
You think she
girl.
like me?
She like me? It's only been like 20 years.
Oh my god. This boy.
And then you get a stare down.
With lots of guns involved.
It's true.
because we run into Chris
Mm-hmm.
Redfield, and his new partner, Piers, who has a last name that I don't remember.
The only logical character in this entire game.
The only logical character in the entirety of Resident Evil 6. Like, everybody else makes the stupidest decisions sometimes, and like makes a decision. I'm like, you know what, Piers, good job. Yes, that's the decision I also would have made. You're thinking with your brain, buddy. I like it. Because he just continued to make really good decisions throughout it. I'm like, I like you, Piers. I like you. And at this point, he's like, hey, we should shoot Ada. This is a good idea. And Leon's like, no, 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 no. My boner says no.
No, you
cannot.
can't.
You can't shoot Ada. She is an important witness.
And Chris is like, dog, she's the one behind all this.
Yeah, she started this, man.
And Leon's like, no, you can't say that. I don't believe you. My boner says otherwise.
Which we also learned at this point that, like, Chris Redfield can beat the ever-loving crap out of Leon in a fight.
Which, I mean, granted, I don't think that's that surprising.
It's not, but, like, I thought that, like, a fight between the two of them would be a little bit more equal. And, like, I think they were trying to portray it as a little bit more equal because there were a few times that Leon got some, like, nice shots in.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, Chris freaking obliterated him, man.
Yeah.
And that fist fight, like, if it had gone on any longer, like, Chris would have just destroyed him.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, Chris punched a boulder a whole lot in 5. So, like, yes,
he knows how to punch.
The boy is beefy. But he's like, Leon, no. Leon, no. I need to take Ada and destroy her because she's behind this. Leon, no. And Leon's like, Leon, yes. So they come to an agreement, and Ada goes flying away.
She throws a flashbang and it's like, later. And I was like, Arr!
Piers is like, I should have shot her like I said. God. I don't remember if it's after this or before this, but anyway, Simmons has been injected with this C virus, which you called the cool virus.
The cool virus.
At some point, and we get to fight him on a train.
We do. We beat him up on a
train. And by
train.
get to fight him, I mean we were forced to fight this man on a train, and sometimes it ended very poorly because we kept getting dead.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, good game mechanics.
It was hilarious at one point because you were like on one train and I was on the other, and I'm like, cool, I have nothing but a pistol. And like I kept shooting something, and then we got a cutscene, and I was like, did we do it? Yeah, I just like shot him a couple times with a handgun. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we did it. And then Leon continues to be dumb. Repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, Helena at this point's like gotten a little bit better since like her sister is not there anymore, but then Leon's just like, all right, time to just be off the rails dumb. So we beat Simmons on that train, and then we're like, hey, we're in this part of China and everything's fine now, right? Chris is like, no, not everything's fine because 1, Ada is dead, and B, there's a giant missile of the C virus heading right to you.
Good luck. Later.
Bye, buddy. And then Leon's like, oh, by the way, can you go save Sherry and Jake? That'd be swell. They're in an oil field a little bit of ways.
All right, later. I'm gonna not get gassed.
Yeah, which we turned Leon green a few times accidentally.
Yeah, it was real good.
Yeah, it's good, the word you want to use.
Totally.
It wasn't even like a good transition of him like trying to become zombified. He just like turned like green and points
and
like,
fell over.
Yeah, he fell. It was awkward and strange.
We got to ride with that one dude who just took us around, and he was like, you couldn't even see out the front, and he's like, how are you driving? And he's like, I can't go anywhere later.
Oh yeah, that poor guy. He was a good guy.
Mm-hmm. And then eventually we just like
driving.
And then eventually we just like wind up where the prologue started.
Yeah, because everything's going to heck, and like a jet plane, just fighter, whatever they're called, like goes into a building, and the prologue acts out, but it acts out a little bit different than like the initial way that it worked.
Right.
which I don't understand that at all.
Shrug shoulders.
Yeah, it was weird. And so like we fall into this glass thing. We have to fight T-Rex Simmons.
Mm-hmm. And Ada's there with her
Which-
helicopter and she's shooting it.
yeah, that was
Even though Ada's
interesting.
dead.
Yeah, Ada's dead. Which that was one thing that like when he gets the message that Ada is dead, he's like, copy.
So sad.
And then he pouts for a minute. And I don't understand because like usually when they're trying to talk to each other, like they press their earpiece. And then at that point he like says things without pressing the earpiece. So I'm like, are they just doing that to look cool? Like do they have to press on the earpiece to talk, or did he just like talk and then Chris didn't pick up any of what he actually said?
Sometimes you just gotta look cool.
And sulk because your crush of 20 years who is never going to sleep with you just apparently died. But now she's back and shooting a
Coffee,
helicopter. I will say, and I'm sure you're not surprised by this, Matt Mercer did a great job as Leon.
Oh yeah.
The funniest part though is that Matt Mercer and Troy Baker are in this game together.
Yeah.
And so there's this point where like we had, the two characters are talking to each other and both of us are joking like same voice, same voice. And Laura Bailey does a good job too.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know it was Laura Bailey until I looked it up. There were some like high quality cast members in this.
It's true.
So yeah, we're fighting T-Rex Simmons and everything's going honky dory.
And we beat him.
Yay! He's dead, right?
No.
No, he's never dead. We get to fight him another, twice?
Yeah, a couple more times. One time he turned into a giant bug and it freaked me out.
Yeah, the bug was
I was
kind
like,
of creepy.
no.
We're climbing a elevator cord at some point, and then like Leon like jumps over from the elevator cord to like go help Ada at some point. I'm like, dude, it's like he's got a magnet on his junk and it's just attached to Ada, and he's like, I'm like, Leon, honey, like, no, stop, Leon, no, Leon. And so like Helena was just up there like picking off people with the sniper because I was like, well, Leon decided to leave my ass up here. Guess I'm just gonna help him from here.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no idea what was happening in the fight. Like I didn't even know what Simmons looked like until later in the game. Because I couldn't see him. I was just sniping things.
Yeah.
Because it was like you and Ada like chilling out up there, and then Ada's like, bye, I left you a present.
But yeah, you fight him again there, and then like once again, doesn't do anything.
Mm-mm. So that's when I go for our present, which is on the roof of the building.
Which you have to like walk a lot of ways to get to, and fight him even more times.
There's one part with like a lightning rod, which came from a certain part of the game later that we found out, and eventually you do beat him, and there's this great scene that's so cheesy, and I love it. And it's when Simmons falls on that spike.
Oh God.
Yeah.
God, that scene.
Yeah, it was a good scene.
Man.
So Simmons falls on the spike and bleeds an excessive amount, an amount that no human being would even be able to contain in their body. And the way that it flows down, it like zooms out and does like an aerial view of it, and it's the Umbrella logo. I was like, yeah, about this life. And luckily we do get our helicopter, but Leon does not fly it. Helena takes over.
She's like, no, you don't get to fly this.
You sit there and look pretty. But she does. Very successful. But Lord, man, like, I don't think I've been as annoyed with Leon in my entire existence as I was at certain points of this, because it was like, Leon, no. Like, you just want to take a spray bottle like a cat and just like spray him in the face like, yeah, no.
He's very dumb in this route.
It's not even just like dumb. It's just that he just like
doesn't think.
He's whipped. Um, because like Ada is using him and very clearly using him and admits to it and is even like wants nothing to do with him and kind of makes that pretty clear. I think there's one line that she says in the entirety of her rap where she calls him cute. But then other than that, it's just like she's not that into you, bro. Like you got to get over this crush. It's at this point it's been 20 years for us, but like it's been a long time, buddy. You got to let it go. You're 36.
Got a whole life ahead of you still.
And you've been doing this whole like most of your life and like I don't know, maybe find you a nice girl who's not gonna like die anytime you look at her wrong. But I don't think 8 is it. I don't think 8 is your good option here, buddy. You gotta move past that. Speaking of dumb decisions, then we played the Chris route.
Oh man.
We had Piers, who was a smart boy.
Chris was a dumb boy.
Chris is a really dumb boy.
Which is it's the opening of that category. That campaign is just so ridiculous. Where it's like Chris is just in this Eastern European bar, just drinking himself to death.
Turtleneck.
And you see Piers like he's like, I'm just gonna enjoy a nice steak. Oh, I heard they make good steaks here. And then like he's like, what the are you doing here? You gotta get back right now. We're all agents. Get back here now, soldier. You dumb. Stop with your bull.
Stop being a drunk.
And Chris is like, okay.
Okay, I can do that. Which like that was such a ridiculous scenario that like all of them are agents in this one tiny bar in Eastern Europe. And like they see Chris start acting like a jerk when he gets cut off from alcohol, and they're like, "All right, we gotta step in. We gotta get our captain back."
Which they do,
as you do. Yeah, and so he takes off his turtleneck,
puts on his gear, neck,
the terrible pants that nobody likes.
So you start this one off in China for like a little bit and get to see like the different enemy types in this route.
Yavos or whatever they're called.
So you get to fight them a lot.
We have a hostage situation in the building.
Yeah, that's what you got to go do first and clear that, and run up and down a bunch of floors.
Yeah, we got so lost a lot.
It's true. And
by we, I mean me.
And then they're like, hey, we got the hostages. All right, let's blow up the building. And everyone's like, okay, later. And they're like, wait, guys, we're still in here. Guys.
Bad decision. So we're like, how do we get out of this building? So we had to find a place to like jump out of the building. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, now we're back in Europe.
And then it tells the tale of like what happened to make Chris all sad and drunk.
Which, by the way, the whole scene where the steak, which it's weird that that's how I refer to it, but
the scene with the steak.
Piers has his phone and he's like, look at these pictures. These were your men. They died on your watch.
Because Chris has amnesia. He has like post-traumatic stress disorder and is like completely blocked all that out.
Well, it's post-traumatic trauma. Because it's the head injury.
Wouldn't that be the post-traumatic trauma? Isn't that like just a double negative?
No, because post-traumatic stress is like an emotional reaction, okay. Like a mental emotional. Trauma is actually like a head injury.
I forgot he bonked his head on the concrete at the end of that.
Yeah, he had an actual head injury that caused the post-traumatic stress.
He really bonked his head.
Really hard. He broke the concrete.
He broke the concrete with his skull. Like, buddy, like, you're going to break your skull doing that.
When you do that, you know it's bad. So anyway, we're back in Europe.
So yeah, you basically get to tell. It tells us like what happened throughout all this, and you get to fight some big boys. They got like weird things in the back, were big. And you got to pull the junk out of their back. Yeah. You meet up with Sherry and Jake here, and she's like, "Hey, I'm transporting this dude," and Chris is like, "This guy looks familiar, huh?" Anyways, that's interesting.
Who could you be?
I don't know.
He's like, guess I don't know you. You look familiar, but move along, buddy. And Jake's like, you jarheads all up the same to me. I don't know who you are.
Pierce is like,
Bah.
I'll fight you. Chris is like,
Dude, Pierce is gonna shoot at me.
So yeah, like they have that little meeting. They go their own separate ways, and then like they run into like this building full of like a bunch of cocoons and stuff, and a bunch of those pop and
City Hall.
oh yeah, it's at City Hall, and a bunch of those pop. So you have to fight a bunch of those enemies, and then you find Ada here, who is supposedly running everything and has made Neo Umbrella.
Which, worth mentioning, some of these cocoon guys are bees.
Bees!
And some of these bees! And then some of these cocoon guys are velociraptors for no reason. Like, it's insane. But the bees was a good joke between us.
Bees!
Bees!
But yeah, you get led through all that, and then basically she kills all your men except for Piers, and then Chris gets bonked on the head.
Yeah, dude, she like injects, like she puts them in a cage and then injects them all, which like we knew Finn was gonna die because, which rip Yuri Lowenthal.
The one man who knew how to do everything.
He knew how to do everything. He was a medic, he was a demolition expert, and like he was amazing. And he was also the only other one not wearing a helmet, so we knew he was important until he died. But she like put them in a cage and then injected them with a C virus and then like let the cage loose. It was like, hey, go get Chris. That'd be fun, right? And so he had a big grudge against Ada, but also got his head bonk.
I forgot everything.
Yay!
Until
And then
Piers brings
became
it
a
back.
drunk with a turtleneck.
Dang
And then
turtleneck.
like he's in China. He's like, I don't actually remember anything, but I'm here anyway.
And then like after that happens, after you get out of like the building, because it flashes back to that, and he's like, I remember everything.
And then we found a park and we played in it a
We
lot.
found a park and we went down the slide.
And I got to play on the panda.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, because the first route you played as Leon and I played as Helena, and then the second route I played as Chris and you played as Piers.
Mhm.
So I got to play with a panda and we got to go down the slide. But your slide was way cooler than mine because Piers gets down on his belly and goes like face first down the
He goes
slide.
belly first down the slide.
And then Chris is like, I'm gonna stand on the slide and go down it. I'm like, Chris, why? Why are you like this?
So yeah, they let you do that. It's
And
real
we got
dumb.
like a little part of our score was like
You
went down the slide. We're like, yeah, we did.
It's true. So yeah, you fight your way through China,
As you do.
blowing up helicopters and stuff, and a bunch of big enemies. I think like this is like this third chapter is like where you meet up with or you encounter Leon.
Yep.
So that happens again, obviously, but you get to see it from Chris's side this time, and then when you're playing it through it this time, you also notice like, oh, they're over there on the other side of that wall, doing the same thing we are.
Yeah, we didn't notice that the first time. The second time, we're like, oh, hey, there's Leon and Helena. They are also shooting the evil Roombas. So that was neat. And then they got there, and at this point, you understand more like why Chris is so adamant that we kill Ada. Which, like, at understanding that she was in charge of it, like we were told that, and we're like, okay. But then, like seeing what she did to Chris and his group, you're like, okay, I understand a lot of why he just wanted to straight up murder her, and also Piers like made sense of why he wanted to murder her.
But also at this point, like we realized, like there's like two Adas.
Yeah, because they had different outfits,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how you clarify main characters. If you're ever wearing a different outfit, you're a different character, unless you change clothes on an airplane.
It's true.
Because Leon and Helena did that.
It's true.
I think Cher and Jake do too at some point, but that's because they were naked, so they didn't really have much of a choice.
They just steal clothes.
Yeah, that perfectly fit them.
So yeah, you get to do all that, and then essentially after that, it's like, oh well, you gotta go chase Ada, and she goes to like an aircraft carrier, so that's where you head off next.
Which there's a part where you fly an airplane in this.
Yeah.
And I somehow got us the trophy for not injuring the airplane. I don't know how I did it, and I'm real proud of me for it.
Which is interesting because like, so you get through like the first aircraft carrier, and then like you just grab a jet and go off to like a different one that supposedly has like missiles for the virus that are going to shoot off and go into mainland China. And so like you stayed up in the plane, I jumped off and had to like go like blow shit up.
Yep.
All the while like these big old boys were following me and trying to beat me up. So like you basically were like flying around and like shooting stuff while I was doing that. And then eventually like we got back up on board and then we had to like take care of like, you know, like anti-air stuff and then shoot missiles and all that sort of stuff. It was interesting.
Mm-hmm. The bad part is that like 90% of the fight, I'm like, am I actually flying this plane?
Yeah, it wasn't really good at telling us that.
So I didn't understand that, but also like I didn't injure the plane and got us a trophy.
You
So
did.
yay! I didn't know I was flying the plane, but I did a good job.
So there you go. Pro tip: if you want to get that trophy, just think you're not flying the plane.
Yeah, just don't think you're flying the plane. Just think you're just shooting stuff and like hoping that the computer is flying the plane. You'll do fine.
A-okay.
Which the aircraft carrier is actually pretty cool. Although there was one part where I was like, have you ever actually been on an aircraft carrier? You're like, no. I forgot what you were even asking about, but it was, I like that. It was neat, except for those creepy like dudes that you could like microwave their hands.
Oh right. Well,
Yeah, I
you meet
didn't like
those
those
first
guys.
in the Leon route.
Yeah, I still didn't like them.
But yeah, you can microwave their hands.
You can microwave their hands.
It's true. That leads you to like the oil place where you got to go find Jake and Sherry.
Yeah, well, you also kill Ada.
Well, you don't. That you watch her
Well,
die.
You watch her die.
Because
Yeah,
someone
Ada,
just flies up in a helicopter, is like, blat! Later.
Yeah. And so she gets shot and then falls down. You're like, well, Ada's dead, which is when you call Leon and tell him that Ada is dead. And then he pouts. And then he's like, by the way, go get Sherry. And so you do that. So we fly away to the west, which is underwater.
Yep.
Yep.
And then that's like the final stuff for this route where you get to go through all that, save rescue them, and then like this big old monster comes out and fights you.
It's huge.
It's a big old
It's
thing.
got like all these weird arms.
So like you get chased by it, you fight through it a lot, and then like everything you're like, all right, yeah, we're fine, we're gonna beat the thing, and then Piers gets and his arm just obliterated.
Which, by the way, running away from that thing with the camera angles was trash.
Mm-hmm. Like most things.
But yeah, the thing like throws a piece of shrapnel and like pins Pierce's arm like to the wall. I think he gets part of it smashed and then he gets another part of it pinned.
Mm-hmm.
And then Pierce is like, well, this sucks. And Chris is about to die. So he's like, all right, well, time to be awesome. Which, by the way, Pierce was freaking cool during this because he's just like, well, I got to save Chris. What do I do? I'm just going to rip my arm off.
So he like pulls it out of like the shrapnel and is like just dangling there, and then he finds like the injection of the C virus that you find on the aircraft carrier. He's like
on Ada, right?
Yeah, and he's like, well, YOLO, and injects himself, and he gets this cool arm that can shoot electricity and stuff.
Which I was so freaked out by this because it's like, I don't know what's happening. You're just shooting electricity everywhere. There's water all over the floor, and I'm just shooting with my little pistol because that's all I had at that point. So Chris is just like, I'm trying my best. So and there are parts where like I actually just like punched the thing in the face after you electrify it.
So that's essentially like how you do that final boss fight is like you have to electrify the enemy, and then Chris has to do something, and then like, you just beat it up a lot.
Which at this point I was like, oh no, like Piers has injected himself with this. He's the only rational person in any of these routes. Piers isn't gonna make it.
So
and
of course he's going to die.
I kept telling you, I was like, I don't think you're gonna make it, buddy. And I don't think he's gonna make it. And I was real upset because Piers was great. He was such a good and smart character. And he continued to do good and smart things even after the Chris is like being a dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Because Chris is like, "Come on, buddy, come on, we'll just get on the get on the
escape pod. We'll go together. It'll be A-okay."
And Piers is like, dude, no, and just like
Nope.
puts him in there and shoots it off. And big boy monster is like, Chris, no, you're staying with me. And
Hey, buddy.
he goes to grab him. Pierce is like, nope.
Big old electricity.
Yeah.
Which, like, the whole thing before this is like, Chris was like, all right, after this, I'm done. Pulling out, you're gonna take charge after this.
You're gonna be the new captain.
And then everything goes down the way it does, and Chris is kind of still stuck there.
Yeah, that's why you don't ever tell somebody that, like, I'm gonna give up my gun and you're gonna take my job. Like, don't ever do
Immediate
that when
death
you're
flag.
Yeah, Jesus, like that. You just killed Piers right there, Chris. Good job. So I was real sad because Piers was such a good boy, and he died in a very tragic way
It's
because
true.
he's a Resident Evil character who's not named Leon or Chris or Claire or Jill.
And was actually, like, smart and understood things and wasn't a dumbass.
Right, and like was actually willing to take action when action needed to be taken.
Right.
And then we get the epilogue where like Chris is eating the steak.
Clearly a good steak.
I mean, apparently Piers told us it was a good steak, and since he is a good boy and a smart boy, I trust him.
True.
He has good judgment. I believe his judgment on steaks too.
So that led us to Jake,
Jake, and so we get good butts again.
which we learn in Chris's route who he actually is.
We do, because there's a part where they have a little confrontation,
Mm-hmm.
and Chris is like, "Hey, buddy, by the way, I killed your dad." Which, like, maybe not the best thing to say to somebody like the second time you meet him.
Chris is like, what was it, personal or was it professional?
Both.
What?
Yeah, that was the funny thing, is that like when we were playing it, Jake asked, he's like, you know, is it professional, or like were you following orders, or was it personal? And I was like, he's gonna say both. He's gonna say both. Both. I was like, yes. I could write Resident Evil dialogue.
It's true.
I mean, it wouldn't be that hard, but
But, like, the dumb thing about that entire sequence is you learn in this route is that, like, Jake didn't give a shit about his dad.
he didn't. He did not care because he didn't even know who his dad was.
Yeah, he learns about him throughout the route, and he's like, that dude sounds like an ass.
Right. He's like, dude, my dad did some crappy things.
And then, like, when you meet Chris, he's like, oh, I'm going to point a gun at your head for doing that. How dare you? It's like, dude, why do you care so much? Like, you literally have, like, said a few hours back, like, it was like, man, that guy sucked.
I think it was like misdirected anger because he realized like how crappy of a person his dad was, and like his dad abandoned his mom and she was sick and all. So I think it was like a misdirected anger, and the fact that like he wasn't able to confront his dad himself and find out who he was and all that.
But it's just poorly done.
It is poorly done. I think that's what they were going for, though. I could be
It's
wrong.
bad when you have to be like, is this what they're going for? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, given what we know about Chris and given what we know about Jake and given what we know about, I guess I'll spoil it, it's Wesker's kid. Like it makes sense that that's what's going on, but they don't specify that that's what's going on, because otherwise in the route he's just like, yeah, my dad sucked, man. Whoops.
And it's just like that one moment, and he's like, I'm angry. It's like, dude,
I mean, like,
what? Why?
Jake does just have like angry moments.
He does,
sometimes.
but like even then, like I just don't buy that as him like getting angry.
No, I
that
agree.
he's, oh, this guy killed my dad. How dare you?
I agree with you.
Like if anything, he would just be like, huh, okay, whatever.
And it might have also, and again, this is just me like guessing. It might have also just been the fact that like Chris was like, "Hey, you look familiar," and maybe he thought like he was keeping something from him. Because I feel like Jake would be the kind of person that would be upset if you were just like lying to his face.
Right.
So I mean, it could be any of these things, but Resident Evil clearly doesn't tell us what it is, so it just seems irrational.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Jake was actually not a bad character.
Yeah.
I was expecting him to be like an atrocious bag and like
That's why you're like, you get to play as that guy when
really,
we
really
do this
awful.
campaign.
Well, also like I knew Sherry
Yeah.
because I played Resident Evil 2, and so I was like, Sherry, yay! But yeah, I also told you like you get to play as the edgelord because he seemed like an edgelord, and then like we got to this, I'm like, oh, actually, he's like one of the better guys in this entire game. Like he's actually a somewhat nice person who's not really like he's selfish at the beginning, but by the middle of it, he's very not selfish, and he did better than Leon, that's for sure.
What you just said though reminded me that like, man, they really wanted to make this game like, hey, you remember Resident Evil 2? Hey, you remember
Oh,
Resident Evil
yeah.
2? Hey, you remember Resident Evil 2? Hey, do you remember Resident Evil 2? Because like every time like anything happens in the past, like, oh hey, this happened in Resident Evil 2,
Hmm.
and look at all these characters that are tied to that game.
Yeah, the only one that you don't get is Claire.
They really wanted to make like a new, like it's not really a sequel. It's just like a new continuation of the Resident Evil 2 story.
Maybe this was like them like putting feelers out to see if they should remake Resident Evil 2.
But I don't even know if it works like that.
I don't know. I'm just
Considering
saying.
like everyone like prior to that, like that was the big
They
hubbub
wanted a
because
remake.
yeah, they wanted like because they did the original remake and then a bunch of other little remakes here and there, and there's
Yeah,
like,
they did
hey, why don't you
Zero.
do two? And then Kevin was like,
Here's 6.
here's 6, here's 5, here's 4, 5, 6. Here's a bunch of other spin-off games. Here's other stuff. And I mean, it wasn't until recently until they're like, yeah, we're gonna do two remake, but like, it's just so weird how there's like,
There's a lot of connection to 2
yo,
here.
Resident Evil 2, that was a good game, wasn't it? Hey, remember that? Too bad we're not remaking it anytime soon.
Oh my god.
But
Only took
yeah.
them what? 6 years?
Well, they announced they were gonna do it. I think like what 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, but we just now got a trailer for it with
But yeah,
actual
yeah. But I'm just saying, like,
information.
they confirmed they were going to do it like a few years back. So like, but during this time when this game came out, like, they hadn't said that. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
So yeah, it's a lot of Resident Evil 2. But yeah, Jake was actually not a bad guy.
It's
He
true.
wasn't a bad guy.
He almost went to the bone zone a few times.
A few?
A few.
A few.
I mean, I'm not wrong.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is it like there was actually like some quality cute romance going on in this route. And I'm like, I'm about this life. I like this. This isn't like one-sided abusive nonsense with Leon, or like to the point that the romance is like affecting their judgment.
Right.
But it was cute, and yeah, he definitely got more action than any of the other protags in this game. Way more action. Which is also great because personally I would not choose to do this, but it's rare that you see this kind of thing that's not like in a creepy trope. But the fact that Sherry's 27 and he's 20 is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't usually see that unless it's like, weird teacher stuff or whatever.
Right.
But you don't usually see like the cute older lady that's hanging out with the gruff younger boy and dating, which I mean they don't officially date, but you know what's going on there. So she meets him and she's like, "Hey buddy, you want to come with me? You're under the US government's protection because like your blood's rad."
He's like, do I get to make money off this? She's like, yeah. He's like, all right, give me $50 million.
$50 million. And she's like, "Done.
Okay, sure.
Let's go."
And it's like, oh, this should be like a simple, normal task that I can do. And then, oops, we're just going to be chased by this giant claw man monster throughout like the entirety of this campaign. Which
was also like one of the easiest bosses.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, but also we got to hang out with Chris and Piers and fight those weird spiky back monster things again.
Mm-hmm.
And
then we part ways and go off on a plane, and then like it's like, oh, hello, I'm here.
Yeah, he just like opened that plane like a tin can with his weird claw arm.
You gotta like jump from plane to plane.
Yeah, the whole instructions were like, don't wreck the plane and also survive. And I'm like, I don't think we're gonna survive this don't wreck the plane thing. So every plane we were on just got wrecked.
Mm-hmm.
And then I freaked out because I forgot that Sherry had any kind of like infection.
Super healing powers?
Yeah, because like we land and Jake's looking over and he's like, "There's blood on me," because he has Sherry on top of him. He like grabs onto her and like rolls over in the sky so he can protect her. But like he's looking at his hand. He's like, "That's blood. It's not my blood though." Oh, and then like he looks at Sherry and she's got like this giant piece of shrapnel in her back, and he's like, that's bad." And she tells him to pull it out, and he's like, "No, you'll bleed to death
Like,
if
that's
I
a
pull it
bad
out."
idea. What are you talking about?
She's like, "Just trust me, pull it out." And so he does, and she heals. And so he starts calling her Supergirl, and it's cute. It's super, super cute. Also, it's Troy Baker, so like you have to consider that the whole time that we're going through. This is all Troy Baker saying this stuff.
Same voice.
Same voice.
Then you get trapped in a snowstorm.
Yeah, we
Get
gotta
to
go
ride some
find.
jet skis.
We gotta find the data on Jake's blood.
Because apparently
Yeah,
it's the only data that they have. They don't have backups or anything.
you ran over me with a jet ski
I
once.
did.
So mean. So you have to find the 3 pieces of data, and then Jake's like, "Hey, we should go to that cabin. It looks really nice and cozy." And they get some quality hot looks going on with each other, and then oh no!
Here comes the enemy. He's like, "No, you don't get to do this." And like, blah.
It's like the biggest zombie block ever. Jake's like, "Well, I guess we're not doing this here."
So you get to ride some more jet skis through the. Oh god, that sequence.
And die like 15
Oh, that was
times.
bad. It was real bad.
Between the two of us, like we just kept dying on the jet skis.
So dumb.
Because the ground's cracking as you're running away from like I guess it's avalanche blizzard.
Yeah. It's an
type thing.
avalanche.
And like if I wasn't falling into the weird cracks, you were falling into the weird cracks or like running into stuff, and it was a bad sequence.
Mm-hmm.
I think we died 11 times between the two of us on that
Something
chapter.
like that.
It was dumb. But we survived and we made it, and then we got to go down to like this weird little like I don't know what it was. It was like an underground facility.
And then we get to do stealth.
Stealth, which you were really good at.
Look, I've played some stealth games in my time, but like this is a game that doesn't have stealth mechanics, and it just don't implement that style into a game that doesn't have the mechanics for it. It was real bad.
You got a drill to the torso once, and then you also made me get a drill to the torso once.
We both got drilled in the torso, which
It's
is
like
a long
such a
and
long
arduous scene.
sequence.
Yeah,
It's like a solid minute of you just getting torn to pieces in the torso by a drill
what
arm.
are you doing?
It was awful. There was no need for it to be that long.
Zero need.
But it's like a whole bunch of like, kill the bug so that he can't sense you.
Bad.
And so, yeah, it's just a continuation of like, hey, our claw buddy's just going to continue to follow us around a whole lot.
And then you go out to like an open area, and there's like ice over it, and then you have to like grab a key.
Which I did on
him.
the first try.
You did.
Well, I did on the first try, except for the fact that like the one time I got accidentally drilled to death.
Well, that was my fault, not yours.
But I went over there and was like, hey, this seems good. Oh, I grabbed it. Yay, let's go. And then we got like on a snowplow and like snowplowed him off of a cliff.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, that was tough.
And then he came back and was like, bonk. You're captured.
Yeah.
And then you wake up 6 months later. Well, don't really wake up 6 months later, but like 6 months later, oh, hey, we're going to escape today. For whatever discernible reason. Because now we're in China.
And Jake is like shirtless with like sweatpants on. And then like, poor Sherry. They put her in a hospital gown, but it's like the most cleavage exposing hospital gown in the entire universe.
Mm-hmm.
And like anytime she even like breathed wrong, her boobs are just like and like you could see her underwear. And this was one point where I was really, really mad because I couldn't get one of the serpent emblems because of the way that they had set up the 2-player part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was real tragic. But It was a whole lot of like stealth in here because I was hiding in lockers and killing people.
And I had to like shoot people with camera guns.
Which, why would you put guns on cameras in the first place? Like, who does that?
You want beefy security, apparently.
Apparently, except for the fact that we broke out anyway and
Yeah.
stole somebody's clothes.
So yeah,
Which
that
that was what we were
happens.
talking about earlier. We
Yeah,
steal people's clothes, and it's hilarious because like the clothes fit perfectly and look really great on both
it's
of us. And
true.
like Jake ends up getting like a V-neck with suspenders, and it's pretty rad. Uh, I think like there's some kind of heart-to-heart that happens here, and I can't remember exactly what it is. Because like he says something that accidentally offends Sherry, and he realizes he did it, and he's like, "Oh crap, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that." But I don't remember exactly what it was about.
Same.
Um, but anyway, then we get to break out of this sweet Chinese
It's
mansion
true. And find a bunch of like little coins that we get to cash in.
and get a gun.
Get a gun. And
That
then
was actually a pretty cool sequence until the end with the tank thing.
yeah, and then the tank comes out of nowhere and starts fighting us, and I had to get a motorcycle, but like the camera was absolutely terrible and did not tell you exactly what you needed to do there. So it was just me fighting the camera and like almost dying the entire time while you were almost dying the entire time
Yeah,
until
because I was having to like avoid the tank shots and also enemies while I was waiting for you to come bring the motorcycle to me. Which that's one thing. Jake has like acrobatic skills,
yeah, you can do
which
flips.
it's odd. I was not expecting that, but uh he also is a great physical fighter, so when you get on your back and punch things, it's pretty fun.
So you get the motorcycle and bomb out of there, and then like the next chapter starts off with like a sequence where you're driving the motorcycle and you had to shoot from behind, and it was
Oh god.
bad for you.
The driving mechanics of this game are not
They're
good.
very bad.
Because we had to do it with Chris and Piers as well when we were chasing Ada
All
to
right, yeah.
the aircraft
Uh
carrier.
huh.
And then we did it here, and it was like, this is not good. It also destroyed my accuracy rating.
Yeah, because you could not shoot off that thing.
Uh-uh.
But yeah, that was not good.
Then we get to meet up with Leon and
It's
Helena
true. We get to do that fight again.
and not get hit by a bus this
We
time.
made sure not to get hit by the bus. Like that was the first point. It's like, all right, we're gonna do this thing again. Do not get hit by the bus.
Yeah, which I mean, I guess the good part was that I was Sherry, so I was driving the bus.
And I got up on like just some high ledge. And I was like, nope, not getting hit by this bus.
Don't get hit by the bus.
So that happens, and then you go to like some other stuff happens. I think this is like you get saved by Ada at one point, just randomly.
Oh yeah, because there's the part with the boats that
Yeah.
there's like the chainsaw zombie that appears and
Because you got to run across a bunch of the boats and stuff, I think. Or you got to
oh,
drive
that
through the
was-
boats, and it's really bad.
yeah, it was a whole bunch of like us. You were driving the boat, which there was one part that I actually had to heal you because there's like a swinging piece of rebarb thing, and you just got
Whack!
obliterated by
You
it.
just killed me. I was like, oh, I'm down.
I was like, "Who's driving the boat?"
No one's driving the boat.
So I had to go heal you, and then yeah, Ada rescued Sherry and was like, "Plop, here you go, boy," and she like drops her into a Princess Carrie and Jake's arm.
And just runs off, and you're just like, what the was that?
Yeah, what just happened? That was bizarre. And like at one point, Sherry gives like the data to Leon. It's like, here's the information about how to cure the C virus, and it's all just like, here's Jake's information. Jake is the cure.
He's like, okay.
Yeah, so that's the thing.
And then like you go to the meetup with Simmons, and then you just magically get captured because apparently you don't know how to fight or use guns anymore.
Yeah, that was weird. There was like 10 of them maybe, and we're like, oh no, we're overwhelmed. And like, guys, we've been taking on more than 10 at a time,
Yeah.
like way more than this. You got to get your junk together, guys.
Which that leads you to the oil field.
The oil rig.
Yeah. And you get saved and everything.
Yeah, we get saved, and which by the way, apparently I had to open the doors so that you didn't have to like try and I don't remember what he said about 15 times.
Forgot about that.
Oh, it was so annoying.
Because you were like
I was
off looking
kinda
at
like,
stuff, and I was like just sitting there constantly like, hey, you should open this door for me. Hey, you should open this door for me so I don't have to go through the vent. Hey, you should open this door for me so I don't have to go through the vent. Just repeat ad nauseum.
over and over and over. And I was like trying to find a way to open the door. And then eventually I was just like, God, get out of there, Jake. Please stop talking. There was like a weird elevator sequence where we had to power up the batteries. And like, it was scary. And I almost died a few times.
You did.
And that one poor zombie guy got smooshed.
He got smooshed.
He got super smooshed.
But we got out of there.
And we did. And then we get to meet up with Chris and Piers and go up another elevator.
And then we get to fight our claw friend again.
Which again was like the easiest of all. Well, the first part was like in lava, and we didn't do too badly on that part.
Mhm.
But then like the actual final boss fight with him was like a cakewalk.
It was like anticlimactic in a sense, because like you have this whole thing of like him chasing you throughout the entire campaign, and then like the boss fight's just like, eh.
Yeah, it was like it's crawling up a thing and then letting a bunch of cargo go repeatedly.
Mhm.
But the lava part was pretty neat looking.
Yeah.
Although I was scared the whole time because I was like, I'm gonna fall in lava and this is gonna be bad.
Also, why was there a bunch of lava
Um,
underwater?
Because we were under the ocean. I don't know.
Resident Evil.
Basically, yeah, that's all you need to know. We get launched out, and then we get some lovey-dovey stuff, and then we see Sherry on the airplane, like, this is what happened with Jake. This is my report. Da 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 da. This is all top secret, and I should not be typing this on an airplane.
But I'm doing it anyway.
And then she like smiles very, very softly, and she gets a text message on her phone, and you see that Jake has now lowered his price.
It's true.
He only wants $50 now.
He
And
dropped
then
a
he
few
puts on-
zeros.
Dropped a few zeros. I'm pretty sure that it's the power of love, and maybe he got a date out of it. But he puts on his sweet shades, and he has a new motorcycle and just drives off into the distance. It was great.
Oh. And then we got Ada.
Yeah. So Sherry and Jake were one of my favorites though, because they had some really cute interactions.
Yeah.
They seemed to be like the ones who genuinely like liked each other.
Mm-hmm.
Not like just in a romantic sense, but they actually like were trying to work together to solve everything without like getting into massive fights constantly. Like Chris and Piers were constantly getting into fights. Helena and Leon were constantly just like bickering at each other, and Sherry and Jake were just like, all right, let's do this. But yeah, then we got Ada, which Ada was awful.
It was just nonsensical.
But
the one redeeming part.
The best co-op character.
Agent. So dumb. Because like you're just a generic agent fellow. He can't go through doors.
He can't open doors.
Can't open a door to save his life.
He can't solve any of the puzzles.
And anytime like I would like grapple hook away, you just like automatically like disappear.
I would just like warp to wherever you are, even ahead of you sometimes.
So dumb.
I was like, hey buddy, what's up? I'm here now. Agent was hilarious. And I kept like getting really concerned anytime we got stuck because I'm like, I can't interact with anything. Agent is best boy and tries his best.
He is the best boy. But yeah, that whole campaign was supposed to be like, oh, you're gonna learn the real truth about everything now. It's just like
I was more confused.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing you learn is like who fake Ada is.
Who fake Ada is.
Everything else is just completely nonsensical bullshit.
Yeah, it's basically like, how did Ada get into the parts where Ada was and the rest of the game? And it's like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Like, okay, she's here. Cool. Like, there's a part in a submarine where she's trying to get information about Ada 6 months ago, and she's like, this is weird.
Dumb.
Okay. And then like the sub sinks, and then like there's the part with like the cathedral where she's like helping Leon, and she finds the Happy Birthday Ada Wong tape, and she's like, huh, this is interesting. Set it on fire.
That's basically her reaction to everything. She's like, huh, this is interesting.
Yeah, she is nonplussed about everything. And it's really boring because like you want her to react to something.
And she just talks to herself a lot, even while Agent's there.
Yeah, Agent is there, but like it's mainly just her talking to herself a lot. And like I said, there's a whole lot of her like talking about using Leon or like how Leon is doing this or doing that or whatever. And she says once that he's cute, but I think it's kind of like a demeaning manner, kind of. Anyway, she's clearly not into you, Leon. You need to play Ada's route to realize this.
Like the only redeeming part of that route is Agent
I
because of the
agree.
goofy parts we made from that.
Agent was so goofy. And I think that like if it were anybody else playing that, they'd be really irritated with it. But like with us, we were just making jokes the whole time and it was
Yeah.
amazing. But it's really a whole lot of just like, wow, all this is happening. And it doesn't matter. Like, oh wow, Ada got a helicopter. Cool. She saved Sherry. We knew that.
Get to fly a helicopter
Like,
though. That we were like,
yeah,
are we really flying this?
yeah. It was the same with the airplane. We weren't sure if we were flying this either. And I was like, I'm shooting things. This is fun.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to shoot the T-Rex guy. We got to see the umbrella flood or umbrella logo
God.
again. I had to snipe again because Ada was down there with Leon.
Agents just up there like,
Again.
again.
Yeah, really the only like big revelation we got here is who fake Ada was. And even then it was like some generic character we've never met before who worked with Simmons, who like Simmons turned into Ada
Mm-hmm.
because he was in love with Ada, which like join the club, man. Apparently everybody is and turns psycho about it. So he's like trying to recreate her, and Carla, or whatever her name, goes nuts and decides that she's just gonna destroy the world and create Neo Umbrella and destroy Simmons because he made her into that, and destroy Ada because she hates Ada for Simmons being in love with her, and just nonsensical.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then eventually Ada just like sets that on fire and shoots it to bits. She's like, "Hey, I found the lab. Time to destroy it," and then walks away. And it's like, Ada,
Cool.
all of that would have cleared your name, right? All of it.
But I'm a
Everything.
super secret spy and I'm real cool.
It was so annoying. It was so annoying. Like the Ada route was really the most irritating of all of them because it was like I feel like it's just like generic action phrases and a whole lot of like terrible flips.
Yeah.
Which I mean, to be fair, I've never really been like a huge Ada Wong fan because I feel like she's just that in every single role she's ever in. She's just like generic action phrases and like trying to be the femme fatale, and she's just kind of annoying. But also, like, especially playing through the entirety of the other routes, and every time Ada would get on my nerves, I was just like, by the time we got to Ada, I wanted nothing to do with her. We should have just had Agent as Ada's route.
Agent and Agent.
The Agent route.
The Agent route. That would have been way better.
I agree. We should give Agent his own game.
There you go.
Where you can't open any doors.
And then, like, the post-credits stinger for Ada's route was, like, Jake in, like, a new country fighting zombies. And you're just like,
Yeah.
what?
So, like, I felt like they were, like, setting it up for a sequel to this where Jake was, like, going to be the primary protagonist.
Right.
But we're probably not ever going to get that.
Nope.
Which is tragic, because, like I said, Jake was, like, one of my most well-liked characters in this entire game. He was great. I enjoyed him a lot. He had a lot of depth, and he had like he had a great arc. Like he went through a lot of growth, and he learned to trust people, and he was like genuinely funny at moments. Like I like Jake, and yeah, we'll never see him again. Bye, Jake.
Nope.
You were good while you lasted. And that's Resident Evil.
That is Resident Evil 6.
One thing that is worth mentioning is that you also have these like dog tags that you can set up with like titles and everything.
Oh, yeah.
That Jared and I both by the end of it had 4-star rock hard buns.
Because it's a title you get for just like crawling around on your back, and we
your
would just do that constantly.
So we had 4-star rock hard buns, which is, fitting since like I was staring at butts like 90% of the game. Everybody had fantastic butts except for, Chris and Piers.
It's true.
And they might have, I don't know. They just were under those terrible pants that did nothing for them.
But yeah, I think if I was playing this game by myself, I probably wouldn't have liked it.
I could see why you wouldn't like it if you were playing it by yourself. I would have liked it if I were playing it by myself, I think. But I've also just been a fan of the series for so long that I'm used to the shenanigans of Resident Evil.
I think just playing it with you and just being able to goof around the entire time made it a much better experience than if I was playing this by myself.
Yeah, I think probably if I played this by myself, it wouldn't have been my favorite Resident Evil by any a long shot. It would not have been my favorite Resident Evil. But playing it with the two of us and making jokes around it, it's up there. I had such a good time with it. I was real stoked to play it every time we booted it up. I was like, yeah, let's go. Let's do this. I was genuinely excited to play Resident Evil 6.
I mean, yeah, it was like I said, it was a lot of fun just getting to goof around and make fun of a lot of just the nonsensical parts of this game.
And it helped that you saved me from the spooky zombie shark parts.
That's what I'm here for.
I would have been able to do that by myself.
It's true.
There's no way. I would have quit the game right there.
So yeah, I guess for me it makes sense to I understand why this game has such a mixed reaction, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're like, hey, I want, this game's cheap, so if you're thinking of oh, maybe I would want to play this game at some point, find someone to play it with. That is the best way to do it.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, again, as somebody who's played the other Resident Evil games and has even played the handheld Resident Evil and the freaking Wii light gun game. I like Resident Evil games. I like the shenanigans they play. I've owned this game on the 360 and tried to play it, but I like it. I just think it was a really much better experience with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like it better than you do, but that's just because that's who I am as a person.
So shout outs to Proto Unarakami for programming this.
There we go. That was what I kept seeing. I was like, oh man, look at his name. That made me laugh a whole lot every single time.
Oh, Soji Seta, huh?
Yeah, Soji Seta. Yeah. There he is. Wow. Got a career in programming Resident Evil games. Good for you, buddy.
That poor dude can never search his name now. Maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing for him because it's always nice when you can kind of have some form of being anonymous on the internet. But yeah, he's forever gonna be Persona 4 Pro Tag.
That's true. But I think unless you have anything else you want to mention, I think that's gonna wrap this episode up.
I can't think of anything else. I was trying to think if there was anything pressing in the series that we should talk about, but no, it was fantastic. I had a good time. Agent is best boy.
That is definitely it.
It was a fun game.
Well, there you go. That is Resident Evil 6 in a nutshell.
Yep.
But if you would like more from us, go to seasonlanguagecheckup.com or sdc.cool. That's where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like the mainline Season Language Checkup and Jared to Now Watch, and columns and reviews. If you want to follow, or what?
Try again.
If you want more from Anladium, go to anladium.com. She has columns and reviews. You can follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/animecheckup. And support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. If you'd like to support our very podcast and this more talk about Agent.
Pretty much, yeah.
Next week will be something. There are options on the table.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on certain things. But we definitely have ideas of what we were going to talk about next week. We just don't have it set in stone yet.
Yeah. But in the meantime, think with your actual brain. And if there's a girl named Ada Wong, maybe just go find somebody else to date. You're 36. You have lots of options in life, buddy.
And if Leon Kennedy comes
I
your way,
believe in
run
you.
away.
Yeah, also don't let him fly planes
That too.
or anything that flies. Anything that flies. Run away from Leon Kennedy. Don't let him fly. Also think with your brain.
Just,
The end.
just fantastic words of advice in general.
Mm-hmm.